Okay, I thought I'd keep set number 10 out, just to give a different look to the set of images. And I thought I would do just a really simple winter scene. Alright, now, winter scene, I mean, you can do it in many different ways, but I usually like to use cool colors, so maybe a range of blues to depict all of the imagery. It just kind of sets the tone for the, I don't know, the season, the temperatures, and it's just a quick and easy way to, you know, kind of get the feeling across that you're trying to depict in terms of temperature, if it is something like that that you're going after. All right, now, this is more of a grassy type of terrain. That was Sedge Cluster right there. You can see where I stamped it out 4 times, and I'm just going to use Sedge Filler right across the top of that and fill that in. Okay? And that's more of a grass, right? But if you colored it in blue tones, you know, I mean, it can look like winter as well, so it's really just kind of whatever color scheme you want to use on it. Alright, that was that. Let's stamp out our main image in black, I think. Just, I want it to be a little bit more bold. Well, as I say that, as I ink that up in black, I'm thinking maybe I'll play around a little bit with a little bit of blue, tinge maybe. Maybe I'll blot off some of this black on my trees. And I'll just add a little bit of blue into that mix. Kind of looks a little bit more icy. Yes, it cross pollutes my pen a touch, but these Marvy markers are pretty juicy, so I just kind of roll them off like that. And you get that pure blue again, so it's not something I really worry about. Alright. Country Chapel Small. I'll put it around right here, so it's kind of roughly the same composition that I did a couple lessons ago, but we've added in a little bit of a creek or maybe a pond down here, or something like that. Okay. I have a little bit of lint right there. It didn't stamp out right there. Alright, this is what you always want to find out. What do you do when something like that doesn't stamp out? Alright. I didn't put enough pressure there, too. I'll just cover it up like this. Okay. And it's dark brown. It looks so similar. I'll use black on these little trees right here. Let's see. I will use the center one. See that where it's kind of inked up right there? I'm just masking off my chapel. Let's see if I can figure out which tree is inked up right there. Filling in right there. Paper towel mask. Plenty of pressure this time. You get that tree filled in right there. No problem. Alright. You can even fill it in with a, I don't know, like a leafless tree and maybe give it even more dimension or something like that. But I want to just work with set number 10 here. Alright. Same idea. Tree cluster small. Yeah, let's take off a little bit of ink first off the top. Took it a little off the bottom too, just so it'll look a little bit more misty or something. Blue tones, say manganese blue, just basically any light blue. You can go with the darker blue if you're worried about kind of cross-contamination, but again, I don't worry about that at all. This is the way that I was taught to color when I first started working for a Stamp in the Hand company. They're really great at blending colors using the Marvy markers directly onto the stamp for multicolored impressions. Okay, See that variation right there? Doesn't it look like light is coming from above like that? And see that kind of bluish tinge? It's kind of a nice, kind of a gray-blue tone, too. All right, we have that big area in there. I could leave it as is. I tell you what. Let's not color this in with black again. I'll show you what this looks like. Let's just use this pen now. Yeah, there's still some black on there, residual black from making my impression, but let's get some of this just straight blue right here. Do the same thing. You can kind of blot it off on the top, blot it off on the bottom a little bit. And let's place this a little bit higher up. And let's see if this looks like it's farther off in the distance. Just by the fact that it's stamped in a lighter value. Okay, how's that look? See that? It doesn't look like it's, you know, I don't know, some mist or something like that, and it's the illuminated mist bouncing off that far object, coming back to our eye, is more diffused. You can't, it's not as defined, right? Okay, so easy enough. I don't have a, you can see all my little applicators on this one. Looks like we need a fresh ink applicator. I will get back to my, I don't know, stylus tools at some time. I know a lot of you have purchased those, but those are very, very comfortable. So is a paper towel. I just want people to know that they don't have to have certain types of applicators. It's like I can't do scenic stamping because I don't have a stylus tool or something like that. That's not really the case at all. Yeah. Let's go with a range of blues, light, medium, dark. Okay. All right. 2 areas of light. I'm not going to use the sun in this one. There's not very much room there. You could stamp it back there, but let's just have an area of light. Let's have an area of light right here. And I just like to have kind of a spotlight area down here. All right? So this area is going to be light, and this area is going to be light. So it's like an 8 kind of on its side. So area of light and area of light down here. Just in general, okay? That's the basic of it. It's not going to be like that shape, like a quarter or something like that, but that's the idea. And I do have a video on kind of lighting schemes, easy lighting schemes, it's called. You just bring up, you know, Stampscapes videos, and you enter in something like it's like a search engine, and it'll just search my channel for those things. So you can enter in stuff like nature set number 8, or, you know, Lakeside Cove or something like that, and, you know, it should filter out a little bit. I do need to put in some more keywords though. Okay, so you see what I'm doing right here? I'm just inking this up, see, like that? It's this little applicator. It's a little wadded up paper towel. Putting a lot underneath my trees, and I put a lot at the base of objects like, well, trees or this chapel right here. And then look at this. This chapel is, there's shadows on it. Alright, so I'm just darkening the shadows with more ink. Okay, so this area right here in the chapel, it's a little bit lighter, so I just leave it lighter. I could get some tone down there just so it's not so stark white, but just in general, if you want to know about, you know, shading objects, all you have to do is look at the design, see what color they are, you know, or tone. Are they dark? Are they light? And if they are dark in some areas, then just reiterate that with a little bit more ink. And if they're very dark or very light, then leave those areas largely untouched. Okay? What I'm doing right down here is I'm just adding some of this tone at the base of these rocks, or the sedge cluster, okay? But now we have our lighting on this meadow right here, this area out front. Do you see that? Area of light there, an area of light here. A lot of people ask me, well, how do you, you know, they have a really tough time doing lighting. It's because they color in this, they see this whole strip as grass or something like that. This is a, you know, a winter scene, so that this is the whole area down here of surface, so they see it as coloring in the whole thing as if it were kind of like an outline, like a stained glass with one area to be filled in equally. All I'm doing to depict lighting through the use of coloring and shade is I just retain those areas of light down there. Alright, it's a little bit hard to see because I'm working with a light color, but it's always easier to work with light and then just work incrementally darker, okay? Watch this one right here, okay? Coming in. I'm not going like this, okay? I'm just going like this. See that really light touch right there? And if I want to go darker, then you just... That's about 12 strokes or something like that, right there to get that color, okay? Or that value of this color, okay? So just go with a really light touch. Stay in one area. Don't try to color in this whole thing. Don't see this whole thing as something that you have to color like instantly. Just go very slowly and take it in. This. I mean, this is not going to be a hard thing if you go like that and you can barely see anything that you've applied, but that's the stroke that you want to do. You know, in terms of control, you might be doing some kind of a, you know, expressionist type of mark, and you want those marks to be very apparent. Well, that's a little bit of a different kind of thought process, but you can do that. But I just go with these nice, smooth, kind of very light strokes, and you can see I'm kind of using my dry paper towel now to get those lighter incarnations of it. And where am I using the drier version? I'm using it in the light area so I can get a very light application of it, okay? We're not used to using colors like that oftentimes. We're used to using the full version. We stamp a color out, an image that's in a certain color. We use a pen or something like that, and you get the full version of that color as you apply it. This is just kind of taking all of my inks and just using them for light gradations, okay? Light values with each kind of dry brush stroke. Or you can dab too, whatever you want. If you're kind of feeling something in your shoulder or something like that, getting tensed up, you're using too much pressure, and get it into a nice ergonomic motion. See like this? I don't work like this. I mean, that's not too, you know, non-ergonomic, but this is more ergonomic. See this stroking action? This is nuts. My shoulder's kind of out of, you know, alignment. So I move the card in the direction that's the most conducive for the mark that I'm applying. So this right here, this is a real comfortable position. This is where my hands fall, so this is largely where I do my applications. Okay, building it up a little bit. You see that lighting right here? It's a lot more distinct, right? I'll leave this area kind of light up there. A lot of people, when they get into the, it's the darker tones that tended to get a little confusing at times as far as, you know, covering things up. It's like, oh, you know, they get the first one or two colors down, and then they kind of keep doing the same motion with the darkest of colors. Which you could do, but just use a very light version of it. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, so I'm using this darker blue, and I go, you know, quite a ways in here with the lightest of tones, a very dry version of the lightest of tones. Now, with the darker version, I might kind of just stay right here in the shadows, and I might not go into the scene quite as far, so that I retain the light that I've established with the use of the two previous colors, or however many colors you've gone through. So kind of retain what you've established. Don't go all the way in there and just eradicate all of that lighting that you've so nicely defined. Good way to do that, just apply very little at a time. Okay, so see that right there? The darker you take your shadows, the lighter the light areas will seem by contrast. A little bit of a vignette on the perimeter. One of the things I like to do, and I know a lot of you have different types of markers, okay? Here's different types of values right here. These are just alcohol markers. You can use water-based markers like Tombos of the Plumes or whatever you have. And I like to use very pale versions of them. Okay, so these are all very inexpensive. You can get a pretty good range of values for really inexpensive, you know, rates. This one right here is less than 40 cents a pen, double-sided. Go right in here and adding a little bit more shadow work with it. Okay, I can get in very detailed areas with this one. Unlike, you know, wadded up paper towel. Little shadows at the base of my chapel, underneath my trees, where, you know, there might be a little bit more shading. Going with a little bit of a darker tone. This one's a little bit more of a purplish blue. It's kind of anchoring those images a little bit. I kind of put it on, well, I don't know, the better word is somewhat sloppy. It's because I can go back in with my blender, you know, just my white one. Well, actually, this isn't white. This is just a very light blue, but you can use your blender pen and just kind of spread that out like this. Yeah. This is done on glossy, but, you know, so the blender's going to work better on glossy than, say, a matte. There might be some mattes that, like a hot press matte, that you can do this on, but for the most part, just kind of a slicker paper tends to work really easy in terms of your blending process. Sometimes you can actually remove ink with it if you want to. Getting some of this in these little defined little areas of the grass. Okay, let's do something here. Yeah, I think that's all I need to get. Well, let me see. Have a little bit more shading on the building structure. I like going underneath the eaves and things like that. Okay, see that? I think the chapel looks a little bit more dimensional that way. All right, let's take our trusty cotton ball. Very nice applicator. Same thing. I'm applying quite a bit of ink on this. I'll blot off a little bit. My pad is, it's kind of getting more towards the medium amount of ink in there. It's not too juicy. It's not dry, but it's kind of medium dry, I would say. All right, now this is what's really going to bring a lot of atmosphere into the scene. Start off in my lighter areas. Now, a few taps, I cannot see anything, and I'm sitting right here, okay? But the more taps you apply, do you see what's happening to that tree right there? The more taps you apply, the lighter it gets, so don't rush it. You know, even if you don't see kind of a result right off the bat, don't squeeze it down and get a big blob of paint, okay? Just always take things nice and incrementally. It's really where, you know, with a few dabs, you can't see anything at all. So that kind of fog kind of creeping in here, isn't that fun? It's like this light kind of entering in through there now. It barely shows up down here, but I do see it. Hope you can see it too. Hope my camera's picking it up. Let's put a little bit in front of this chapel. I like to obscure kind of in kind of a textured fog, a little bit of mist like that. Doesn't it feel like it's a little bit more dimensional? Look at this tree behind the chapel. Let's put some lighting on it. Doesn't it look like some light is now kind of illuminating that tree? Sometimes it looks a little bit weird in other areas where there isn't too much light. Adding some down, kind of tapping it out a little bit, but look at that soft little glow. I really like this area, don't you? That kind of passage of light, isn't that really fun? Now don't get, if you end up with real blobby, and if you're working on glossy paper, you can just always wipe it off. It comes right off. It's very forgiving. But remember, just, when you re-ink, start in your lighter areas and just kind of tap it around, or tap it off, on your page before you start taking it down here, and just have a lot of control. Now, as I do this, I'm not squeezing it in, I'm just lightly dabbing it. I'll show you what it looks like on a black piece of paper so you can have a better idea. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, you can't, it's barely visible, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's what it looks like with 12. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There it is. You see the difference right there? But look at this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. See that? When people see that, they think, oh my god, I can't see anything. Then they go like this, and they think, oh my god, I'm getting blobs everywhere. Well, just stay with the light shading. Well, it's a light kind of illumination, but that's what you're working with there. See, it's just a very light tab, and you'll have complete control over it. It's a little bit more precarious, though, of course, if you rush it and you have way too much ink on your applicator and it's getting blobby all over. But that's what everyone does when they first start doing this. And again, I understand it. It's not using the full amount of a given medium like you're, used to, working with pens or stamping imagery out in colors. It's the full value of that given color. So it's just kind of weird to use less of a certain medium, with each application. Okay? But that's where it becomes very easy, less precarious. Does it take a lot of time? Not really. It takes more time than doing it in one thing, but that's not the look we're going after either. We're just going for this light little dabbing right here, and I don't know, this really changed the spirit of the scene quite a bit, didn't it? And, I don't know, how long did that take? 4 or 5 minutes? I was blabbing on a lot about it, but it doesn't take long at all, to get that look. And that's a lot of, that's a significant look-changing technique, mark, that you're going after. So I don't think it's too much to, just to hold up a little bit and kind of allow it to develop. Alright, so that is that. I really like that look. I hope you do too. I'm not done yet, but let's do a little snowfall here, okay? I do have my toothbrush here and my Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. And let's do this right here. I'm taking some of it off so I don't have a big blob. You kind of have to dip in there. And by the way, you have to add water to this, but I've done that recently, so I don't have to do it right now. But usually if you don't use this for a couple weeks, it does dry out. Or it just, becomes kind of solid, and you have to go back in and reconstitute it, to whatever thickness you want. But this is really fun stuff right here. Do you see that texture that's being applied? A lot of my scenes, it's much more apparent, but this scene right here is fairly light in value, so it's a little bit more subtle. Alright, now I've added it mostly up here, but I'll show you what I'm going to do here. This bottom portion is looking a little bit bare to me, but look at that texture. Isn't that fun? In this scene it's fairly subtle, but it still reads very well. Okay, let me grab that tree cluster again, and let's use this for some foreground imagery. I need a fairly thick ink. I swear by my VersaFine, but the VersaFine was... I mean, it would be fine if that's what I used, I think, but let me try this hybrid one. This hybrid one really worked well over the pigment ink, the white pigment ink when I did this, I don't know, what was that, yesterday. Okay, I'm going to put some trees over on the other side of this pond, I think. Okay. Really gives it a lot of depth, huh, by having that dark imagery really close to us. I'll show you what I'm going to do here, too. I'm going to do something a little bit different than what I normally do. Okay, so we have this row of trees right here in the foreground. Look at that dimension, though. Okay. All right, let's go back to this again. So I wanted to kind of lay down some of those, that snowfall, that texture first, and then stamp those images out right over the top. And I thought I would hit them again with a little bit more, but over the top of the trees. So it's kind of like sandwiching, you know, that white paint a little bit. Like so. Now, if you don't have this Dr. Martens or white paint that you can splatter with, you can always go with a, you know, gel pen. Put gel pen dots or something like that. Or if you have a white paint pen like I purchased recently, like the Miaosun acrylic painter. It's like a pack of 10, you know, for $10 or something like that. Fairly inexpensive, but they don't sell them individually, so you do have to buy like 5 or 10 or something like that. But I don't know. I think I just hope these things last by the time I get to that last one, because I have a feeling, because I'm not drawing, you know, a large drawing with this, I don't think I'm going to be using up a lot of this ink too fast. Okay, here's the little fine detail points here. I'm just going to go in and add these little, kind of little mound, top highlighted mounds up here. Okay, it kind of blends in with that splatter painting for sure, but so be it. This is a little bit of a larger dot. Kind of on the top sides of these tufts of grass. Okay, just for a little bit of a change. We have these foreground trees if you want to, yeah, put a little bit of a... I think I need to shake this here. This has that metal ball, or I don't know, plastic or metal ball on the inside. My paint is a little bit more translucent than I want it to be. I want it to be a little bit more opaque. And it's still translucent. I don't know. I don't want to sit here for, you know, a few more minutes to shake that up. But all right, down here in the water, there's some rocks next to the bank. I'll just kind of bring out some highlights on those. Alright, put some on the right tree. Okay, that's better actually. It's not so transparent, or translucent, a little bit more opaque. Adding... quite a bit of a atmosphere in there, huh? And it's so easy with that cotton ball. I should have been using that a long time ago. I'm sure there's a lot of other household items that I'm not utilizing that I should one of these days. I just don't think about it sometimes. You know, but when I thought about some things recently, like a kitchen sponge I used, and that worked great. A really old kitchen sponge at that. Okay, how's that for a 30-minute card? There's quite a bit of depth in here. I mean, we use some, really effective textural applications here in the form of a very soft texture with the cotton ball and white pigment ink. That's something that a lot of us have. But look at that passage of light coming through there. Doesn't it look like light? That's just because we just stamped it out lighter to begin with, and then use the pigment ink right over the top of it, so everything looks really full. And then we have our very crisp textural additions with the form of the splatter painting of the Dr. Martens bleed-proof white. A little bit of texture on those trees. But anyways, we have an area of light right here and an area of light right here. Just two different areas. I mean, I have it kind of reflecting off the chapel as well, but just in general, go a little bit darker underneath your trees, just for the shading, and you'll have a really effective lighting kind of scheme within your scenes. Okay, so anyways, hope you enjoyed the scene. As always, thanks for tuning into the channel, and if you have any questions, drop me a note in the comment section, and hope you like and subscribe.